Hi, good day. This is Teacher Rica. I am your grade 9 math teacher. And since you are in grade 9, the first lesson that we're going to talk about in the first quarter is about quadratic equations. So this is just an introduction. During your previous grade level, when you were in grade 8, you were introduced with linear equations. This time, since you are in grade 9, we will talk about quadratic equations. Now, let's have an example of equations first. For this set A, we have here these equations: x plus 3 equals 0, c equals 9, negative 5 equals 2y plus 4, and 6 minus 2/3 m equals 0. Now, another set, on set B, we have the equations x squared plus 3x equals 8, c squared equals 9c, negative 5y equals 2y squared plus 4, and 6 minus 2/3 m squared equals m. The first question that we're going to answer is, what type of equations is on set A? How do the equations in set B differ from the equations in set A? How do we call the equations in set B? Let's go back to the set of equations on A. So take a look. Now, as I've said earlier, you were already introduced with these equations, and we call them linear equations. Why are they linear equations? It's because each equation has a degree of 1. When we talk about degree, that's the highest exponent of the terms in the equation. Meaning, for the given variable in each equation, wala ka ng ibang makikitang exponent. Pag sinabi exponent, yun yung number sa taas ng variable. Wala ka ng ibang makikita exponent other than 1. Considering x on the first equation as our variable, its exponent is 1. Now, wala kayong makikita 1, right? But as in math, when we write 1 as an exponent, it's written invisibly, meaning si 1 invisible, but it's understood that it exists. So there is an invisible 1 there as an exponent. For the second equation, our variable is c. Its exponent is also 1, which is invisible. For the third equation, considering y as our variable, its exponent is 1. And considering m as our variable for the fourth equation, its exponent is also 1. Meaning, all of these equations in here has a degree of 1. That's why they are called linear equations. Now, let's go to the second set. So, how do they differ from the first set? We call them quadratic equations. Why are they quadratic equations? Because it's different from the first set. The degree of each equation is, this time, it's 2. So again, degree is the highest exponent of the terms in the equation. Considering x, so we have here x as a variable. Ano yung pinakamataas na exponent ni x na makikita nyo? So you see that 2 is the highest exponent that x has. That means it is a quadratic equation. So for the second equation, we have c as our variable. The highest exponent that c has is 2. That's why it's called quadratic equation. For the third equation, considering y, the highest exponent is also 2. That one. And considering m, for the fourth equation, 2 is also the highest exponent of m. So take note, kailan sinasabi na quadratic equation? Kapag ang pinakamataas na exponent na makikita natin for each variable is 2. Now, let's define formally what are quadratic equations. So this is a definition extracted from the grade 9 learners module. A quadratic equation in one variable is a mathematical sentence of degree 2 that can be written in the following standard form. So this is the standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, c are real numbers and a is not 0. So those are the conditions. So take note, kapag naka-standard form, nauuna si ax squared, followed by bx, and then followed by c. How do we call these terms? So we call ax squared as the quadratic term, bx is the linear term, and c is the constant term. So there's a condition that a, b, c are real numbers. When we say real numbers, these are not imaginary numbers. Example of real numbers are the whole numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. We also have the negative integers. We have the decimals, the fractions. So those are the real numbers. And a should not be 0. Why is it that a should not be 0? Kasi kapag naging 0 si a dito, 0 times x squared, magiging 0 na yung buong term. So, pag naging 0 si ax squared, ang matitira na lang is bx plus c equals 0, which is not a quadratic equation anymore. So, hindi na siya quadratic equation. Ang tawag na sa kanya ay linear equation. So, kaya hindi pwedeng maging 0 si a dahil ang equation natin ay magiging linear. But it's possible that b and c could be 0. What should remind us in determining if an equation is quadratic? So, again, the degree of the equation should be 2. Now, let's have some practice activity. Determine if the equation is quadratic or not. 3m plus 8 equals 15. So, what's our answer? Is it quadratic or not? If you answered not quadratic, that's correct. How about x squared minus 5x plus 10 equals 0? If you answered quadratic, then you're correct. How about 12 minus 4x equals 0? So the answer to that is not quadratic. How about 2t squared minus 7t equals 12? Okay, so if you answered quadratic, that's correct. 6 minus 2y plus 3y squared equals 0. Okay, so that's quadratic. Now, for my students, ito yung ipapasa nyo sa akin. You have to write this down on a paper and then you have to send it to me because this will be graded. So this will serve as your first activity. So all of the written activities on this video will be submitted to me. So this is the same or similar activity on the practice activity. Okay, so that's the first item. That's the second item. The third item. The fourth item. And the fifth item. So 5 items for written activity 1. Now, if you find the slides too fast, masyadong mabilis, you can always pause the video. So for the first one, 25 minus r squared equals 4. Second, negative 7 equals 3x squared minus 6x. Third, 1/2 h minus 3h equals 0. Fourth, negative 2a plus a squared plus 4 equals 0. And fifth, 0 equals w squared plus 5 minus 4w. So your answer is either quadratic or not quadratic. So pipili lang kayo. Okay, second written activity for this lesson. So here are the items. So indicate on your paper if it's written activity 1 or written activity 2 para hindi ako ma-confuse when I check your paper or your outputs. So 5n minus n squared equals 1, b equals 5, a squared equals 0, and we have 10 equals b squared, 0 equals b, 5 equals 7u minus u squared, d squared equals d squared minus 6d minus 4 equals 0. Negative 4y minus y squared equals 8. 7, 6 p squared minus 1/2 p plus 8 equals 0. And lastly, the last item, 2 minus 3h equals 0. So that ends our activity. That is the first lesson for this quarter. Okay, so again, for my students, you have to submit those written activities. So for today's lesson, we have 2. Okay, send it to me so that I can check them. Goodbye everyone, and have a nice day.